Welcome back to the Grand Dabbler, where today we will be dabbling in the world of starter Pokemon. Of course, if you have not watched them yet, I do have a Pokemon Generation 1 and 2 tier list on the channel, so feel free to watch those. And I've not recorded it yet, but I imagine the Generation 3 tier list will be out sometime in the near future. But for now, I just wanted to see, I guess, even personally, like, what is my favorite starters, who don't I like? Because obviously, a lot of the time, the starters define sort of the games they come from. So, starting off with Generation 1, of course, I think how I'm going to do this tier list is my least favorite first, my second favorite, and my favorite from each of the regions. Okay, we've got a super controversial one to start with. My least favourite from this region is indeed Charmander. It's not that it's a bad Pokemon at all. Of course, Charizard is fantastic and is iconic for a reason. But this stems from me as a kid. I always used to pick Charmander. And I guess over time I just grew a bit bored with using it. And so I started using the other two a lot more. And I found myself just enjoying the playthroughs more. I don't know if that's because I didn't pick Charmander, but that's just my personal experience. Next up we have Squirtle, which I'm going to put into B tier. Super solid Pokemon, obviously Blastoise. Great water type. Iconic like cannon design. But I guess there is just starters that I prefer a bit better on this list, so it's going into a solid B. Up next we have Bulbasaur. I've had a weird relationship with Bulbasaur over the years, because it did used to be my least favourite when I was picking Charmander all the time, but now that's completely flipped, and actually Bulbasaur is probably one of my favourite starters ever. I guess as I've got older, I've just matured a bit more, and I don't know why, but Bulbasaur just became a lot more appealing to me as I was growing up. It's going to go into S tier. Next up we have Chikorita. This is another super controversial one, and my least favourite of this region also does happen to be the fire starter. I don't dislike it as much as Charmander. I'm probably going to give it a B. I don't know what it is. I think it's just when it evolves into Typhlosion. I'm just not a huge fan of its final form. And also especially its 3D model I just find to be not very good at all. So you are going into B. My mid for Johto is actually Chikorita. Probably one of the most hated starters of all time. Meganium's a pretty cool Pokemon. Meganium's a pretty cool Pokemon later in the games. I don't know why it gets so much hate. I guess it's weak against a lot of the gym leaders in its region, but just a solid Pokemon in my opinion. That leaves Totodile as my favourite from this region. Not quite good enough to go into S, I don't think. Again, it's a similar situation where I don't really like its evolutions, but Totodile itself is fantastic. I think Feraligatr just looks a bit silly for some reason, I don't know why. You're going into A. So I promise this isn't for every single region, but again, the fire type is my least favourite from this region as well. However, I am a Gen 3 person, and I still absolutely love Chikorita, so it's still going into A. It's just the one I use the least out of the three. It's been a hard fought battle over the years as to which of these next two is one of my favourite starters of all time. I think both of them are, to be honest. I think I'm just going to put them both into S tier. Mudkip is based off one of my favourite animals ever, the Mudskipper. And Trico is just a super cool gecko that I absolutely love the evolutions of. Yeah, both S tier for me. Now we are on to the 3 Generation 4 starters, and again, in my opinion, one of the better trios in the whole series. We have Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup. For me, I absolutely love Turtwig, but I think it is my least favourite of the 3. I think it's a respectable B tier for Turtwig, even though Torterra is probably the best of the 3 final evolutions, giving it that ground type and it completely wrecks the Elite Four. Chimchar is probably my second favourite of the 3. Again, I'll probably put it into B tier. It's not one of my favourites, but a super strong Pokemon to use. And next up we have Piplup, and again, one of my favourite starters, I think. It has to be S tier for me. I just love the idea of a little penguin becoming steel type and becoming like an emperor penguin. It's just so cool. Up next, we have probably one of my least favourite starter trios in the series, even though the games they come from are fantastic. We have Snivy, which, to be honest with you, I'm going to put into D tier. It was actually my first starter I used in the black and white games, and I absolutely love the idea of a grass snake, but I just think it could have been done so much better in my opinion. Up next we have Tepig, cute fire pig. I just don't really like the fact that its final evolution is another fire and fighting type, which is such a common theme with the fire type starters, which also may be playing to a factor why I don't like many of the fire starters these days, because they all feel kind of the same to use in the games, I think. So that leaves Oshawott as my favourite from Generation 5, and I think it's very well deserved. Pretty cool Pokemon. I think you're going into A. On to Generation 6, we have Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. I think for me, Fennekin and Chespin are both D tier. Some of my least favourite starters in the games. I don't mind their designs, there's just something lacking for me. And then we go to Froakie, which is amongst my favourite starters. I just absolutely love all frog Pokemon, and I like that its final evolution turns into like a ninja. That's just super cool to me. Now we're on to Rowlet, Litten, and Popplio from Sun and Moon, and also Ultra Sun and Moon, I guess. I think my least favourite from this region is Back to the Fire starter. I think it's a solid trio. I don't dislike them as much as the ones in D tier, so I think I'm going to put you into C. And now Rowlet, just a super cool starter. Appeals to me in a lot of ways. Obviously it's a archer. In RPG games I do tend to prefer to play archer. And it is based off of the Tale of Robin Hood, which is actually set in where I'm from, in Nottingham. Yeah, it's a super cool Pokemon. You're going into A. Oops, I messed up a bit there. Rowlet is my favourite from this generation, but Popplio is just below that, I think. Decent water type. I just don't think it's anything too special in my opinion. Now we are on to Grookey, Sobble, and Scorbunny. I actually believe this is my least favourite starter trio in the whole series. I can't really put a finger on what it is, but Grookey and Scorbunny are just lacking something. They're lacking a bit of personality, I think. I don't know, I've just never been able to connect with these two Pokemon. Sobble was my starter from this generation. It's a solid starter. I think I'm going to put you into B. I know Inteleon gets memed on quite a lot now, but I do think it's an interesting concept for a Pokemon. I have had to get up a tab to remember the names of the next three because obviously it's so new. I know we have Quaxley. I think judging by early comments, probably the most popular of the three starters. We have Sprigatito, which is a grass cat, and we have Waikoko, which is a fire crocodile. In terms of my favourites so far, obviously we don't know their evolutions or anything like that, or what they like to play with in-game, so I can't make too much of an opinion. But based on early design, I'm going to go Sprigatito into C. I think Quaxley is a solid B tier, and the Pokemon I will be using for my first playthrough of Scarlet or Violet, I haven't decided which one yet, is actually Fuecoco. I can't yet put it in S, but I do absolutely love its design, so I'm just going to put Fuecoco into A. And that is my tier list for all of the Pokemon starters. Let me know in the comments your favourite and least favourite starters. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.